This video is on the endocrine system. The endocrine system is the collection of glands of an organism that secrete hormones directly into the circulatory system to be carried towards distant target organs. In humans, the major endocrine glands include the pineal gland, pituitary gland, pancreas, the ovaries and testes, the thyroid gland, the parathyroid gland, and the adrenal glands. Let's take a look at these so that we make sure we know the differences between them. The pineal gland is a small endocrine gland in the vertebrate brain. The pineal gland produces melatonin, a serotonin-derived hormone which modulates sleep patterns in both circadian and seasonal cycles. The shape of the gland resembles a pine cone, and that's how it got its name. The pineal gland is located in the epithalamus, near the center of the brain, between the two hemispheres, and is tucked in a groove where the two halves of the thalamus join. The pituitary gland is an endocrine gland about the size of a pea and weighs approximately 0.5 grams in humans. It is composed of three lobes: the anterior, the intermediate, and the posterior. In many animals, these three lobes are distinct. The intermediate is almost absent in human beings. The intermediate lobe is present in many lower animal species, in particular rodents, mice, and rats, and they have been used extensively to study pituitary development and function. In all animals, the anterior pituitary is distinct from the posterior pituitary, which is an extension of the hypothalamus. The anterior pituitary is a protrusion off the bottom of the hypothalamus at the base of the brain. It is a lobe of the gland that regulates several physiological processes, including stress, growth, reproduction, and lactation. The anterior pituitary synthesizes and secretes hormones. Proper functioning of the anterior pituitary and of the organs it regulates can often be ascertained via blood tests that measure hormone levels. These secreted hormones include HGH, ACTH, TSH, LH, and FSH. For details about these hormones, please take a look at our video called Hormones. The posterior pituitary is a lobe of the gland that is functionally connected to the hypothalamus via a small tube called the pituitary stalk. The posterior pituitary is the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. The posterior pituitary is largely a collection of axonal projections from the hypothalamus that terminate behind the anterior pituitary and serve as a site for the secretion of hormones directly into the blood. The pancreas is the digestive system and endocrine system of vertebrates. In humans, it is located in the abdominal cavity behind the stomach. It is an endocrine gland producing several important hormones, including insulin, glucagon, somatostatin, and pancreatic polypeptide, all of which circulate in the blood. The pancreas is also a digestive organ, secreting pancreatic juice containing bicarbonate to neutralize acidity of chyme moving in from the stomach, as well as digestive enzymes that assist digestion and absorption of nutrients in the small intestine. These enzymes help to further break down the carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids in the chyme. The pancreas releases insulin to lower blood sugar glucose levels and releases glucagon to raise blood glucose levels. The pancreas functions both as an endocrine gland by releasing hormones and as an exocrine gland by releasing digestive enzymes. The ovary is an organ found in the female reproductive system that produces an ovum. When released, this travels down the fallopian tube into the uterus, where it may become fertilized by a sperm. There is an ovary found on the left and the right side of the body. The ovaries also secrete hormones that play a role in the menstrual cycle and fertility. The ovary progresses through many stages, beginning in the prenatal period through menopause. It is also an endocrine gland because of the various hormones that it secretes. The testes is the male reproductive gland in all animals, including humans. It is homologous to the female ovary. The functions of the testes are to produce both sperm and androgens, primarily testosterone. Testosterone release is controlled by the anterior pituitary luteinizing hormone, LH, whereas sperm production is controlled both by the anterior pituitary follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and gonadal testosterone. The thyroid gland is an endocrine gland in the neck consisting of two connected lobes. It is found at the front of the neck below the Adam's apple. The thyroid gland secretes thyroid hormones, which primarily influence the metabolic rate and protein synthesis. The hormones also have many other effects, including those on development. The thyroid hormones triiodothyronine, which is called T3, and thyroxine, which is referred to as T4, are created from iodine and tyrosine. The thyroid also produces the hormone calcitonin, which plays a role in calcium homeostasis. Hormonal output from the thyroid is regulated by thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, secreted from the anterior pituitary gland, which itself is regulated by thyrotropin-releasing hormone, TRH, produced by the hypothalamus. The thyroid may be affected by several diseases. Hyperthyroidism occurs when the gland produces excessive amounts of thyroid hormones, the most common cause being Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. Parathyroid glands are small endocrine glands in the neck of humans and other tetrapods that produce parathyroid hormones. Humans usually have 4 parathyroid glands, variably located on the back of the thyroid gland. Parathyroid hormone and calcitonin, one of the hormones made by the thyroid gland, have key roles in regulating the amount of calcium in the blood and within the bones. Parathyroid glands share a similar blood supply, venous drainage, and lymphatic drainage to the thyroid glands. Parathyroid glands are derived from the epithelial lining of the third and fourth pharyngeal pouches, with the superior glands arising from the fourth pouch and the inferior glands arising from the higher third pouch. The relative position of the inferior and superior glands, which are named according to their final location, changes because of the migration of embryological tissues. The adrenal glands are endocrine glands that produce a variety of hormones, including adrenaline and the steroids aldosterone and cortisol. They are found above the kidneys. Each gland has an outer cortex, which produces steroid hormones, and an inner medulla. The adrenal cortex is the outermost layer of the adrenal gland. Within the cortex are 3 layers, called zones. When viewed under a microscope, each layer has a distinct appearance, and each has a different function. The adrenal cortex is devoted to production of hormones, namely aldosterone, cortisol, and androgens. The adrenal medulla is part of the adrenal gland. It is located at the center of the gland, being surrounded by the adrenal cortex. It is the innermost part of the adrenal gland, consisting of cells that secrete epinephrine, which is adrenaline, norepinephrine, which is non-adrenaline, and a small amount of dopamine in response to stimulation by sympathetic preganglionic neurons.